conclude on something that failed and say that to yourself, I can't do it, or I keep failing 5 or 6 times, there's no space for any new ideas to come. Failure is ultimately the best thing that could ever happen. You can learn from anything. I did. You have to learn to shift your attention from the concluded thought process to openness, to allow the deep intelligence of the universe to flow through you. There's a lot of things to learn from failure. Failure in life, failure in marriage, failure in many different things. But I didn't realize that failure was a bridge to success until I became aware. I became aware that failure was a stepping stone upon a shift in consciousness that happened within myself, where I no longer derived my sense of self by an outcome. So if something didn't go the way it was planned, at that time, I would be diminished, upset, angry, until I realized that there was no need to be upset, angry, or any of that, but I can be open to new dimensions of life. And when you fail, it only opens the door to learn something new. Ultimately, even with the same situation, you try something else. Not give up on the situation and say that, oh, this wasn't a success, I failed. But how does that awareness of that come into you? Well, there has to be some sense of awareness that you don't have to have it happen that way. You can ultimately experience the situation, fail, and restart and try something different. But most people nowadays, once they fail something, they kind of shift to something completely new, especially after multiple times of failing it. But with this new state of consciousness where you don't derive your sense of self out of the outcome, you excel in failure. Failure becomes almost like your best friend because it teaches so many lessons. And the lessons can only be accepted when there's some conscious awareness, some openness, some presence. Without that, failure is a hindrance, and you ultimately don't like failure. But with the failure being a part of the spiritual awakening and the universal language of consciousness, you begin to learn that failure is ultimately the best thing that could ever happen. Because, for example, when I realized that, oh, I don't have to be negative about things, I don't have to be angry about things, I can ultimately shift my attention from that negative frame of thinking, that negative state of thinking, to openness, which I call compassionate awareness, where you shift your attention from your thought process to the rhythm of your breathing. Your attention should be on the rhythm of your breathing. You notice those negative thoughts pass by, and then you're open again. No failure. just trial and tribulation. You try it. Okay, it didn't happen this time. Accept that. Be open. And then new ideas come in. But when you conclude on something that failed and say that to yourself, I can't do it, or I keep failing 5 or 6 times, there's no space for any new ideas to come. So you have to step out of that negative stream of thinking, using your attention to step out of the thinking, shift your attention to your breathing. 2 or 3 seconds, look around. You can't be thinking while your attention is on your breathing. So it automatically opens up spaciousness, as I call it, presence. Few seconds, look around. The negative thought might linger for a little bit. I can't do it. I failed. I'll just allow it and see what happens from there. New ideas, wiser choices within that situation will come. Because in the old state, or the normal state of consciousness, most people, when they fail something, they're upset. You see it in children very early. I can't do it. They're very upset. So when you conclude on I can't do it, you close off that opening to a new dimension of knowing or learning, which is a little bit insane that we didn't learn this early so that it would be in our database of memory. But that's okay, because it takes a certain amount of failure to learn that failure is not really failure, but it's a lesson to be learned, and it's a lesson that you can take with you anywhere and in any situation. There no longer has to be a concluded outcome with failure. You can learn from anything. I did. It took some time because I never even questioned myself. And when I failed things, for example, when I failed things, I didn't question myself. When I failed things, what is something different that I can do instead of being a certain kind of way? I didn't start asking myself questions like that until maybe late 20s, when the shift in consciousness and the awakening, or whatever you like to call it, started. A lot of people think that a shift in consciousness or a spiritual awakening is oh. No, it's just things you do differently. You reconstruct how you handle situations. You reconstruct how you handle failure. You even reconstruct how you handle success. Because the true success is it's not out here. The true success is always inside, and how you handle situations. So handling failure with ease became a natural phenomenon for me. And I continued to grow and learn through failure. And you will too, as long as you allow that openness. You can use the anchors we talk about, shifting your attentions over to your breathing, stepping out of thinking, allowing those negative concluded thoughts to close you off from new possibilities. Feel the inner aliveness of your body. Follow the rhythm of your breathing for a few seconds, 5, 10 seconds during that situation. And then ask yourself, what is something else I can do with that same situation, and see what comes out of there. Because if failure closes you off, if you conclude on failure, you close off the possibility to learn. You don't want to close off the possibility to learn. You want to learn continuously. You want to make wiser choices and try things that you want to do without concluding on, I can't do it. So you have to learn to shift your attention from that concluded thought process to openness, to allow the deep intelligence of the universe to flow through you. Thank you for joining me.